What's up, guys? Quadron here, going to be bringing you a Reaver Loadout guide. So my thoughts on what to equip on your Reaver, and the similar thoughts will apply to the other ESFs. For the most part, there's a couple of Empire-specific weapons on the ESF, so I'll talk about those a little bit for the Terran and Vanu players out there. But so let's go ahead and take a look at the potential options. We're going to start with the main gun. You can equip 4 different rotary cannons. And I guess technically the M30 Mustang is more of just a shotgun. And so on every single ESF you can get the M20 Mustang. This is going to have a larger, basically a larger magazine size, so 55 rounds. And you can totally kill an ESF in all 55 rounds, but you have to, it takes a lot longer, consistent fire using this, and it doesn't do as much damage per bullet, and it doesn't shoot as fast. So, for example, this Vortec that shoots at 750 RPM, it does a little bit more damage per bullet, but the magazine size is significantly smaller, only 25 bullets starting magazine size. That's a significant step down, right? So, but that 25 bullets is basically enough, I think they changed it so that the starting amount in the Vortec is capable of one-shotting an ESF. I believe they changed it to that. I haven't tested it recently. They've done some balance changes and stuff, but basically the Vortec, if you land every single bullet, and I know if you land every single bullet with the max magazine size, you definitely kill the enemy aircraft. So if you're coming up on someone, they don't see you, you lay a whole magazine into them and kills them very, very quick. So your time to kill on the Vortec is probably the fastest out of all of the nose cannons. The M30 is probably the second fastest. And again, with the M30, you have to get that magazine size upgrade because you only start with 3 shots in your M30, and it can go up to a total of 7 shots. The M30, I think, is probably the most versatile of the 3 nose cannons in that it's extremely good at picking off infantry. I have several videos up on my channel of me just tearing through infantry like crazy, like getting 15 or 20 kills in just 2 or 3 minutes with the M30. But it's risky because you have to fly really low, so you have to have really good control of your Reaver and constantly be moving back and forth to avoid just the rocket spam. And so you want to be careful with the M30. I'd say the M30 is, if you're skilled, you can also use it in the air. You just have to learn how to position your shots because the shots they fall so much shorter than the crosshair. You have to basically aim above the aircraft constantly when you're using it. And the alternatives, the light PPA on the Vanu, it's good against infantry. It's actually really good against infantry, and you can use it at a distance. So if you have clumps of infantry, for example, at the edge of a tech lab and they're grouping up at the doorway, that kind of thing, you can just spam that light PPA and get lots of kills. The Banshee, which is the Terran Republic equivalent, I think is pretty similar to the light PPA, and both of those are pretty terrible against other aircraft. So the M30 is obviously terrible against aircraft at a distance, but as you get closer, it gets better. And I don't recommend getting the M30 until you have enough certs to buy the M30 and also upgrade into the magazine, because until you get at least 5 shots, the M30 just doesn't it doesn't perform very well. You need to have that magazine size upgrade, and the magazine upgrades I think are pretty cheap for the first 2 levels. So if you just get 200 certs together before you get it, I think you can get the first 2 levels of magazine upgrade. But so Vortec, M30 are your 2 options. Basically, Vortec, very versatile as well. This is your anti-air, primary anti-air. This is the new edition. It shoots slower than the M20. It does the same damage as the M20. But basically, this has a much larger magazine size, so 95 magazine size of 95 rounds, and you can probably still increase that magazine size. But I don't recommend this at all. I think the Vortec is tremendously better than the M20, and the M20 is even better than the M20 Kestrel, I think, because this has a faster fire rate, and it has the large enough magazine anyway that you're going to be able to constantly be shooting the whole time, I think, anyway. So I mean, I don't know. I just don't. I'm really underwhelmed by this whole thing. I'm underwhelmed by this, and I'm more underwhelmed by this because the DPS is even lower. So those are my thoughts on the primary nose weapons. We'll go to the secondary weapons now. And I have not logged into the Terran Republic or my Vanu accounts since the massive overhaul on the ESFs, but I think they have access to the Coyote missiles. I'm honestly not sure. This will be just primarily addressing the Reaver here. So Breaker rockets, they have nerfed these tremendously since the beginning, and basically, did I get credits for that? I didn't get any. I did not get any. That's too bad. If you're standing still for too long, you don't get any credit for anything. But even though I was technically active in the menu. So basically, Breaker rockets are great against tanks and good against infantry. I wouldn't say that they're amazing against infantry anymore. Sometimes it'll take 8 or 9 rockets to kill someone, and it's just not the best. Now, if there's a bunch of infantry grouped up, it's quite good at killing grouped up infantry, because sometimes you can pick up 2 or 3 kills in a giant burst. Now, Coyote missiles, which are a new addition, if you're not familiar with the Coyote missiles, they basically are capable of locking on to the enemy aircraft, but you have to basically shoot them like right next to the aircraft for them to lock on. They're heat seeking, but they'll only heat seek if you get them there like within, I don't know, about 15 or 20 feet or so of the enemy aircraft. Then it'll jump to them. So it still requires a lot of aim, and they're surprisingly good against infantry. Surprisingly good against infantry. I would say that this is actually a great option for an anti-infantry missile, and semi-decent against aircraft. I wouldn't say they're great against aircraft, but they're semi-decent against aircraft. And the main reason I say that is because they're supposed to only do 100 damage. Okay, so there is 100 damage or 334 indirect damage. So I think they do the indirect damage more so than the indirect, or than the direct damage. So whenever you hit aircraft and whenever you're splash damaging around infantry, the 334 damage is what you're doing. I have no idea why they even have 100 there, because if you hit them directly, shouldn't that even do more damage than indirect damage? Then that doesn't make any sense at all. So basically, this is an alternative. So when you're reloading on your Vortec cannon, you switch over to this. You'd launch 4 missiles or 3 missiles and switch back to your Vortec and continue shooting. And then you switch back to this and launch all 3, and then it'll reload while you shoot your Vortec again. So it's a fairly decent alternative, and it requires aiming and predicting where your opponent's going in order to land the missiles in air-to-air combat. And it takes 3 missiles to kill most infantry, unless they have flak jacket or their heavy assault with the shield. Now, external afterburner tanks are incredible in my opinion, and they recently added this afterburner upgrade, so you can get increased fuel capacity and replenish rate. And if you're going to be going for air-to-air, pure air-to-air, I don't think there's anything better than going with external afterburner tanks, because it's just significantly better. You're going to be able to catch up to aircraft. You're going to be able to escape from hairy situations, and it's just all around better. So if you're going air-to-air, external afterburner tanks, or maybe Coyote if you want to have a little bit more flexibility, like be able to pick off infantry a little bit better, and have a secondary weapon to switch to. But then you're going to be, you're going to be gimped in that you're not going to be able to get out of hairy situations or catch up to people. So that said, let's move on to Hornet missiles. Hornet missiles are laser guided and will fly towards the pilot's crosshairs. So basically, these are kind of like the AV turret that you point exactly where you want them to go, and they will go there, but you have to maintain your crosshairs on that point the entire time. So it's certainly possible to hit aircraft with these, but it's really hard. So I've managed to hit some Liberators with them. And I've had I had a situation where I got a Liberator really low, right? Low enough that it had to land, and so I was like, sweet, I'll just use my Hornet missiles on them. And so I was shooting Hornet missile after Hornet missile into this Liberator, and the Liberator, like the 2 guys got out and started repairing the Liberator, and they were repairing the Liberator faster than the Hornet missiles did damage. And that's totally not possible with a Vortec cannon, right? So the Hornet missiles, basically, I feel like they do really underwhelming amounts of damage, at least certainly against air. I think that they do much better damage against tanks. That's what I feel like. This is kind of like a long-range anti-tank weapon, probably. So if you're sitting at the back of a battle, you're launching these Hornet missiles into like a tank line. That's kind of like you're like a mobile AV turret at that point. And I think that's probably the best role that these have. They'll probably do okay against galaxies as well, kind of as an alternative. Like you shoot your Vortech or whatever as it's reloading, you launch your Hornet missiles, and then you switch back to your Vortech again. So that's my thought on those. Now my air-to-air missiles, these have been revamped. They require you to, once you lock on, you have to maintain a lock on the enemy aircraft in order for the missile to land. So I think these are a lot more fair and balanced compared to what they were before. They were just terrible, terrible, terrible before. And they're better now, but they're not great still. I don't know. If you're going to be using a Vortech and do air-to-air combat, taking down Liberators and Galaxies, this is definitely the best option for that. I don't think dogfighting, just in general, I don't think using air-to-air missiles during dogfighting is the best idea. First of all, especially for new pilots need to get their basics down of just getting their aim down for shooting enemy airplanes in general, right? Basically, if someone's using air-to-air missiles, you will almost always out DPS them if you use your Vortech cannon properly when shooting them. That said, the air-to-air missiles, I don't know. I don't know if they really have their place. I think they'd be the game would be better without them in general, but I feel like the primary use for these are going to be when you're taking down Liberators and Galaxies from a distance. You're going to be able to launch your missile. Then you're going to switch to your Vortech cannon, shoot it around. While that's reloading, you launch a missile. And these are going to do more damage per hit than the Hornet missiles. At least I think they do, because the Hornet missiles did like nothing, right? Supposed to do 1800 damage. I don't believe that. At least aircraft, resist types. I don't know. I can go in and check this out in the VR, and maybe I'll post an update video to this after I look into that. But those are my thoughts on the uses. And so Liberator and Galaxy hunting, this probably is your best option. Hornet missiles, anti-tanks. Coyote missiles, more so anti-personnel, plus potential air-to-air. This is your best air-to-air. This is your anti-tank, another anti-tank option, plus some anti-personnel. And potentially also with this, you can hit aircraft with it, especially Liberators and Galaxies. But hitting ESFs can be quite challenging with the Breaker Rockets. Alright, so let me put these on the Coyote missiles, which I think is what I'm going to be using at least for a while. Okay, so this is your utility equipment. You can use scout radar, decoy flares, ejection system, fire suppression, and engagement radar. I'd say skip the engagement radar. Don't even level that. That's my personal opinion. Now, I think the first thing you'll want to get probably is 1 level in decoy flares. That'll probably be your priority, unless you're really wanting to get into the air-to-ground action, in which case scout radar is amazing. Within 200 meters, it will highlight all of the enemies on the ground, unless they are cloaked, and you will get XP for any kills in that 200-meter radius. So you will just be racking in lots and lots of extra XP. Plus, if you pay attention to your radar, you'll get lots of extra kills of just people wandering in the field, going from base to base, or picking up snipers hiding in a corner somewhere. You'll be able to get lots of extra kills when you have the scout radar equipped. So whenever I'm doing air to ground, I have that equipped. I'm doing air to air, and I'm going to be going through the air a lot. Whenever I'm doing air to air, and I'm going to be high in the air, that allows enemies to be locking onto you a lot. So decoy flares, I feel like, is a must, or fire suppression. Now they adjusted fire suppression to be quite different from what it was. But let me finish decoy flares. So basically, decoy flares is one of the most expensive upgrades in the game. It was 1,000 certs to get the max level, and it only reduces it by a few seconds from when you can activate it again. And because I'm like a Reaver extra, like just I fly my Reaver all the time, so I went ahead and invested in maxing this out. But this was the last thing that I maxed out on my Reaver, I think. So fire ejection system, I feel like this is what you're going to use if you're going to just use the Reaver as a taxi. You're going to airdrop into enemy territory and you're going to eject. That's what this is for, and I don't think it's really... if you're going to be a Reaver pilot, don't get it. Just better to get something else. Fire suppression. This will heal your vehicle for 25% over 5 seconds, which is a surprisingly awesome amount. And it can be activated once every 45 seconds, at least when it's maxed out. And so this scales up quite a lot. And I think when you have it maxed, it's quite worth it as well. So this is a viable option / alternative to the other two. And I think fire suppression could be air to ground or air to air, depending on your choice. And I feel like what you do is you get fire suppression if you are going to go for vehicle stealth, because when you have vehicle stealth equipped, the only way to repair your Reaver is to land and repair, unless you have the fire suppression. The fire suppression allows you to combo well with vehicle stealth to repair your Reaver while you're flying through the air still, so you can get those kind of patch up those nicks without risking landing and getting out and repairing. If you're doing air to ground, I recommend getting nanite auto repair. If you're doing air to air combat exclusively, I would say vehicle stealth is probably still your best bet, though nanite auto repair is still really strong. If you can shake someone off for just even 15 seconds, you can get repaired up to full almost. So really, really strong there. Now, as far as the hover frames, dogfighting frames, I am a big proponent of the dogfighting airframe, especially for air-to-ground action, and that's because dogfighting improves how your rudder works. It'll make your rudder basically move twice as fast. It does not improve your roll or pitch. So roll is when you rotate, and pitch is going up and down. So it says improved turn, roll, and agility. That's not true as far as I am aware, unless they changed something, which I don't think that they did. As far as I know, it only changes your rudder, and again, unless they patched it. But hover stability airframe is also a great airframe. You can use it to basically air brake faster and go into reverse maneuvers. Now, I do have at least one video, probably multiple videos, explaining how to do a reverse maneuver. So just Google Quadron reverse maneuver on YouTube and you should find it, no problem. But basically, if you're going to be doing a lot of reverse maneuver fighting, dogfighting, hover stability airframe is what I recommend for that, more so than even dogfighting, simply because it allows you to stop, turn, get into your reverse maneuver about a half a second faster. So it's really, really good for that. Racer high-speed airframe, I feel like, is another option, and it's the option that basically, if you're going to be doing a lot of chasing style dogfighting, where you find people and you get on their tail and you just chase them, the Racer high-speed airframe is a good option for that. It also allows you to escape a little bit better. But it doesn't give you the maneuverability of dogfighting, and it actually makes it harder to get into the reverse maneuver because you're going to be going faster. You have to be hitting the brakes a little bit longer than you would have normally. So you got to keep that in mind, but you can catch up to people and get away sometimes when you would have died. So Racer high-speed airframe, I think it just depends on your flying style, but dogfighting is great because whenever you're doing those air-to-ground engagements or you're trying to catch up to people, when you're dogfighting in terms of like those turning battles where you're just constantly turning after each other, the dogfighting airframe will help a little bit if you use your pitch when you turn, which you should always use, or not your pitch, you should use your rudder while you're turning to turn a little bit faster. So doubling the speed of your rudder turn will make you turn faster as well. So that is my thoughts on the Reaver. I do think that it's totally worth getting tiger fins. I think tiger fins look the best. Other people get the viper fins. Viper fins look pretty freaking awesome too. And I do have the blue Lumi fiber, which I can show you what that looks like right now here. Let me switch this to the Vortec. Nice. And let me go ahead and spawn this. And I'll show you what the Lumi fiber looks like, and then that'll be it for this video. And I'll go with the radar, that's fine. Repair, dogfighting. Alright, so this is kind of a good all-around utility build. And we turn on my Luby Fiber, and there you go. So, alright guys, so that's it for the Reaver Loadout Guide. And if you have any questions, I do pay attention a lot to the comments that come through on my channel. So feel free to ask me any questions regarding a Reaver, and I will be sure to answer them if I at all possibly can. So that's it. I'm going to be streaming for a while, probably tonight. And if you're interested in watching, feel free to stop on by or follow me if you want to be notified when I do start streaming over at twitch.tv/QuadronTV. So that's it. Quadron signing out.